Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to today's live session. And in today's live session, we'll be covering introduction to Django, Pip, virtual environments. My name is Eni, in case you don't know me, and we'll be starting now. Okay, so what is Django? For people who do not know, Django is a Python backend framework that enables rapid development of web applications. So with Django, we can build backend applications. Now, Django affords us the opportunity to build scalable web applications. To write Django or to be able to work with Django, you need basic knowledge of Python. And because Django is open source, it has a large community whereby you can get help easily from developers. Now, I built this slide to mainly talk about two Django concepts, which is the Django ORM and Django's architecture. So before we get to that concept, we'll just talk a bit about Django. So Django offers out-of-the-box support for so many features. We have the user authentication, we have content administration. Now you get to understand and know the usefulness of these two things as we go on, especially the content administration, because with Django, we get free admin site or admin panel where we can manage our applications. We don't get to build content administration right from scratch again. Now, Django also offers us routing, templates, and views to build applications. Okay, so the best way to learn Django is through Django's documentation. So Django's documentation is actually the best way you can learn Django. It offers robust documentation. For anything you need, you don't need to go that far. Django already explains all those things in their documentation. Now, another feature, like I mentioned, is Django's ORM. So what is ORM in general? ORM stands for Object Relational Mapper. So it enables a user or a developer to interact with the database like you would with SQL. Now, I believe everyone listening to this conversation has an idea of what a database is. Now, we have different types of databases. We have a relational database, we have non-relational databases. Now, a relational database just allows us to specify relationship between entities or models easily. So that is just the basic gist of what a relational database is. Now, an object relational mapper helps us transmit data between a relational database and an application model. So with Django, you can easily transmit data without actually writing raw SQL queries. So it helps us automate the transmission between how we are going to get our data. So the ORM also map object attributes to respective table fields. If this is sounding strange to you, just bear with me. We would understand the more we go. Just take it in mind that, just put it at the back of your mind that Django offers what we know as an object relational mapper that allows us transmit data between a relational database and an application model without having to write raw SQL queries. So we can query our database without writing any SQL query at all. Just put that at the back of your mind. Now, Django's architecture. Now, before we talk about Django's architecture, let's take a little detour to talk about a popular architecture out there. It's called an MVC architecture. Now, an MVC architecture stands for a model view control architecture. So it's just an acronym, a shortened version. So what is an MVC architecture or an architectural pattern? So an MVC architectural pattern is an architectural pattern that separates our application into three layers. So we have and MVC architecture. We have the model, we have the view, and we have the controller. So most frameworks are there, not just Django. Most frameworks are they adopt this architecture. So we have the model, the view, and the controller. So what is the model? What is the view? And what is the controller? So the model is the layer that allows us specify all the data related logic in our application. So I have an application where users have I have like a data model called users, and users have name entity, age entity, name age field rather, name field, age field, address, something like that. All those logic will be specified in the model part of the application. So it literally has to do with all the data related with the application. Now, the view is the part of the application that the user sees. So let's take, for example, google.com. We go to google.com, we type in whatever we want to search, and we click enter. How we interact, what we interact with is the view part of the application, because that is what the user sees. That is the part that contains all UI logic, all user interface logic of our application. So this part is what the user interacts with. So this is the view part of the architectural part, and then we have the controller. So the controller is just the relationship, or it's act like the middleman between our view and our model. So the controller helps our view communicate with our model. So it just acts like the middleman. So I go to google.com and I search something. I search what is Django and I click enter. It is the controller that allows that text input, what is Django, to go to the model and probably query whatever it is to query to give back to the user. So the controller just allows the communication between our model and our view. So this is just the basic gist of the MVC architecture. You can go research further on this, but this is just the basic gist about an MVC architecture. Now, let's go back to Django's architecture. So the question comes up, is Django an MVC framework? Now, Django actually follows that architectural pattern. Yes. So Django separates our application into three main logical components. So we have the model, we have the view, and the controller. So the same abstraction, that is what Django does. But we can't actually call Django like technically it's an MVC framework, but I don't think if Django had a mouth to speak, it would tell us it wants to be called an MVC architecture, but rather it wants to be called something like a model view templates architecture, or an MTV or an MVT template. So either a model template view or a model view template. So what is the model view template? It's still almost the same thing with the model view controller. So we have the model, the definitive source of information about the data. So it contains essential fields and behaviors of the data being stored. So this is basically the same as the model in the MVC architecture. So like I explained earlier, Django still abstracts the same model. It still abstracts the same idea of the model. We store all data-related logic in the model. Now the view part of our application in Django. Now this is what makes it a little bit different from the MVC architecture. Now, if you remember, we said, okay, so if you remember, we said that Django, that the view rather, has everything to do with the user-related logic. And the user interface logic rather. So everything the user interacts with, everything the user sees, that could be termed as our view. Now, for Django, our view is somewhat different. Our view does not focus on how the data looks. So it focuses on which data is presented to a user. So, like someone just asked, why wouldn't Django love to be called an MVC? Now that is because even though it follows the same architectural pattern, the view and the controller does not work the same way it would in Django. Django view does not focus on how the data looks, but rather which data is presented to the user. So Django acts, and the view rather acts as an intermediary between our templates. Now, remember I said it could be called a model template to a model template. So the view acts as an intermediary between our templates and our model. So it works like a controller would, basically, but in Django, it is the view. So the Django view contains arbitrary logic necessary to return a web response. A web response could be a web page. Now, a web response is literally, so let me just take time to explain this. So we have in single HTTP request, we have a client sending a request to a server, and we have a server sending back a response. So when I go to a browser and I click on http google.com or https google.com, now I'm saying to that server, to the Google server, that I want a response back. So the server returns a response. Now the response could be a content of a web page, a 404 error, anything. So that is basically just a request and response that happens between server and clients. Now, the Django view handles interaction between our templates and the model. Now, you probably might guess now what a template is. So templates is like the view in the MVC architecture. So the template deals with what the user sees. It's how the data is being presented to the user. So this layer basically controls what should be displayed and how it should be displayed to the user. So this is like the view, the whole view. The templates is like the whole view of the MVC architecture. So that's why I said at the start, I said that the MVC architecture, Django abstracts the idea of the MVC architecture. It is technically an MVC framework too, but it is somewhat different. But yes, it is an MVC. So I just needed to explain Django's architecture and Django's ORM. So yeah, I think we are done with the slide part of this live session. So we'll be going over Pip, virtual environment, and creating a Django project. Okay, so okay. So the view leads people to categorize Django as an MVC framework. Okay, so let's just read this last part of the slide. So it says, the view leads people to categorize Django as an MVC framework. The view in Django is most often described as being equivalent to the controller in MVC, but it is not. It is still the view. So where does the controller now fit in? So in Django's case, the controller is probably just the framework itself. So the framework sends response or request to the appropriate view, and the view sends a response back. So you'll probably understand this more when you start writing Django views and Django. But it's not complex. Let me just assure you, it's not complex, very easy. So yeah, so Django's folder structure. So I was going to come to this place, but I think it would just be better for us to create the Django project and see it for ourselves. So to create a Django project, the first thing we'll need to do is to install Pip. So what is Pip? So Pip is Python's installer package or Python installation package. So it helps us install Python packages in our project or in our computer. So it helps us install Python projects in our computer. If you've been writing code for a while and you're probably used to like JavaScript or backend in JavaScript, Node.js or React or something, you would find Pip similar to NPM. So NPM is like the node package manager for Node.js, and Pip is the same thing for Python. So it just helps us manage and download our Python packages. So we'll need to first make sure pip is installed. So I'm just going to do this. So I am on my VS Code. That's because opening my command prompt is stressful. So I'm on my VS Code, and yeah, as you can see, I already wrote the command. Or to make sure pip is installed, just click on this is what I do mostly. Just click on pip, and to just show you all this. Now, you could be having issues with pip. Now, you could be having issues with making sure pip is installed on your system. There is a quick fix. Well, it wouldn't work all the time. So most times when we click on pip, you probably might see something like pip is not recognized as an internal or external command. I think that's the error. So what you do is, or what I do most times is, I click on my Windows, I type apps and features. Sorry, I'm using two screens, so I have to always move the screen from. So I come to Python. So you should see Python somewhere. Okay, yes. So I come to Python here, so you should see modify. So I click modify, and Windows does this thing. Ask the question. So when you click on modify, it will bring out this prompt. Just so it will bring out this prompt. So just click on modify, add or remove individual features. So you should see pip here. Now, it's sometimes when you get the whole pip is not installed is not recognized as an internal or external command. Most times it means that you didn't install pip when you installed your Python. Like pip wasn't installed. So you come here, you click on this, you check it. So maybe it's like this, it's unchecked, you check it, you come to next. Then sometimes too, when you get the whole Python is not recognized, you can always come here, add Python to environment variables, then click on install again. So it will install everything for you. But I'm not going to do that because I have it installed. Yeah, I show my cancel. So let's go back to. So now let's talk a bit about virtual environments. So what is a virtual environment? A virtual environment is simply a Python environment that isolates, or a Python virtual environment is a Python environment that isolates our dependencies, that isolates our packages. So they isolate our dependencies and packages from our computer or from other Python projects. So I could have, so a dependency is basically, or dependency or a package is basically a Django or rather a Python, whatever, a Python package that our project depends on. So these are a list of my Python dependencies I have on my system, like my global system. So this is a list of them. Now, well, sometimes I wouldn't advise you to always install your packages globally because your package should be it should be based on your project itself. So, but to check all your Python packages, you can just click on the freeze. So this command, the freeze, would show you all your Python packages. So it shows that I have Django installed. So Django 3.2, I have other packages installed. So what a virtual environment does is it isolates the packages you install in that particular environment from other environments in your computers or from your whole Django project and from your whole computer itself. So I could have like, here I have Django. I think I'll just show you when we started. So here I have Django 3.2.9. When I create a virtual environment, I can choose to install Django 4. So the whole idea of a virtual environment is just to help you isolate those dependencies such that they do not get broken when you are working on another project and you get to install a similar dependency with a different version. Now, virtual environment also helps you work with a lot of people. Like you can just easily create a file with those dependencies that you install in that environment. You can just create the file and you can send to anyone that is working. So the person just takes that file and installs all your dependencies. So that's basically what the Django or the virtual environment does. Now, we have different virtual environments. Python, we have lots and lots of virtual environments. We have virtual env, we have venv or venv, we have pipenv, we have pyenv. We have lots of them. I personally prefer using pipenv, just preferential, so like just my preference. I just prefer using pipenv. So I think I have it installed. Yeah, yes. So, but I also use virtual env sometimes. But I do not use venv. I think venv is lightweight virtual environment that comes with Python. So I use, because most times when you build your projects using Django and you want to deploy, most deployment sites, or at least they have pipenv as like the general virtual environment you use to deploy your Django project. So most times I just use pipenv. So yeah, that's just the idea. So now we go on to installing or creating a virtual environment. So the first thing you need to do is download the virtual environment you are using or you want to use. So to download a Python package or other packages in Python, just use the command pip virtual and so just pip and the name of the package. Pip install rather, sorry. Pip install. So you can also specify multiple packages at once. So I'm just going to install this. So it will probably tell me requirement already satisfied since I have it here, or it will update. I don't know. So let's see. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, okay, I think there's a question. Sorry, I think, okay, so it says the view is about how the user sees the request sent to the model. By what you're explaining, so is Django a UI kind of program? No, Django is a server. Now, Django is a backend framework, but it also affords us the opportunity to build templates like HTML templates for our application. So it's not just the command line you're working with all the time. No, we can also build HTML templates. You can build APIs with Django. It's obviously a backend framework. You can build front end. You can build HTML. You can still like work on front end with Django. So HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. All of them still works with Django. So yeah. Okay, so now I have virtual env. So what I'm going to do is activate my virtual environment. So I'm going to create a project using Django, and I would use both virtual environments. Now, it's not advisable to use two virtual environments for a project, but for the tutorial sake, I'm going to do that. So I'll use virtual env first, and I'll use pipenv, so you know how to use both. So we go to cd desktop. Okay, so cd. Okay, let's just work on my desktop. So pip install. Oh, I've already installed my virtual environment. So what I'll do is I'll create a folder called what should I call it? New Django project. I think I already have that on my desktop. So Zuri Django, something like this. So this command, this make dir, is just to create a folder in that. So if I come to my desktop, here, oh, you can't see my desktop. You can't see my desktop because I have like another screen there. So if I come to my desktop, you'd see that I don't have a folder called Zuri Django. So when I use this command, what's it called? I create the project. So now I can see into the project Zuri Django. Okay, so I should zoom in on my screen. Okay. I hope you can all see my screen. Sorry. So these are the commands I've been using: pip freeze, pip install virtual env, pip env, make directory Zuri Django. So this is just to create a folder. This is not a Django folder, just to create a folder. The way if I want to create a folder on my computer, I right click, I click on new folder, and so this is just an easy way to do this using your terminal. So I navigated to the Zuri Django directory. So now I want to activate my virtual environment for this folder. So inside our virtual environment, I will install Django. So that is what I'm trying to do. Create the Django application. So to activate a virtual environment, so to activate this virtual environment for projects, so you just need to do this virtual and no, I have not used any extension on. I've not even talked about VS Code. This is just terminal. This is just my normal terminal, my normal, like your normal command line. So VS Code too has its own terminal. It's like normal commands. So it's CMD, still the same terminal. So still the same thing. Oh, you use Python. It's okay. It's okay. We've not done anything regarding that has to do with an interpreter, a compiler, or anything. So it's not really a text editor related something that we're doing here. It's just normal command line that has to do with Django. Okay. 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 So since I've been going too fast, okay, sorry about that. Okay. So I think I'll take it slow now. So to reiterate, what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to activate a virtual environment for a project. Now, I have not created the project yet. I have not even installed Django yet. So I have not done any of all the things I've just been doing are just to show me my package is installed already using pip. Then I installed virtual env. Now I'm getting this requirement already satisfied because I already have them installed before this tutorial. Then I created a folder, and this folder I'm just trying to activate my virtual environment. I've not done anything yet regarding Django. I've not really done anything. So how do we install pip? Now, yeah, okay, so good question. Now, pip comes pre-installed when you install Python. Pip comes pre-installed. Now, when you uh install Python and you find out that you don't have Pip installed, that is when you would modify, like I showed you earlier, modify, click on Pip and install again. Now, when that happens and you see it's showing you Pip is not recognized and an internal or external command, please just feel free to reach out to me or any Python mentor on the channel to help you. So what happens to projects that is built without virtual environments? Would it still work? Absolutely, it will work. Now, a virtual environment is just a way for you to isolate your packages. You can create a Python. Okay, I think we should do that. I would create a project, but not in the same directory. So we would create a project without virtual environment. So it would work absolutely, as long as you have Python and Django installed globally on your system. And that is why I have Django installed globally on my system. There are times I forget. Please, it is good practice. Anytime you start a Python project, always create a virtual environment. It is just good practice. So sometimes I just quickly want to do something like with Django and I just create the project randomly because I have a Django project folder on my computer. So sometimes I just create the project. So that's why I have Django pre-installed on my local on my global computer. But it is perfectly fine. You can always create a Django project without virtual environments. Just put that at the back of my mind. Okay, what can I do if I don't see Django after doing pip freeze? If you do pip freeze and you don't see Django, that is because you have not installed Django. So we would install Django. Now, we'll get to all those parts. So I think the questions will have to go on hold for now. Just keep bringing in your questions and we'll answer them as we go along. So now I'm trying to activate the virtual environment. Yeah, so I click virtual env. So I'm going to call the name of my projects and my virtual environment Zuri. Now, most times you see by convention, you mostly see virtual environments with the name VM, like something like this, virtual VM. Yes, most projects actually use this naming convention to create VM. Now, the reason why I'm not doing this is because it will confuse a lot of people. I mean, sometimes you might think, oh, I thought this VM is a command to create your virtual environment. No. The command to create the virtual environment is virtual env, then the name of your virtual environment. So, Zuri env. So let's just call it this. So let's watch the magic happen. Hopefully we don't get an error. So while we wait, I'm just going to go through the questions now. Do I get Django installed after running pip virtual? No, you don't. So you have to install Django separately. We've not gotten into that yet. Is it okay to use Conda? Now, just give me a second. I don't actually know what Conda is. So I'm just going to check that out now. Oh, it's a package management system that allows you runs on Windows. What does it do? How do we install Django globally? You install Django globally using the command pip install Django. So when you create, so okay, so I think I should explain this. I don't know why this virtual environment is taking time. So when you create, when you are trying to install Django, you use the command pip install Django to create Django and to install Django. Now, what happens is when you install Django without a virtual environment, it installs Django globally for you. So as long as you're installing Django outside the virtual environment, you're saying, hey, Python or Pip, I want Django installed globally. So most times what it does, it just installs Django globally for you. So you have Django globally accessible in your computer. So yeah, our virtual environment is set up and ready. It's has been created. So I'm just going to show you the file or the folder. So, oh yes, I'm running it on Visual Studio Code terminal. Can you make multiple projects in the same virtual environment folder? Yes, you can. But the question should be, why are you making multiple projects inside the virtual environment? A virtual environment should just be for a project. I mean, a project could be wide, like could be more. Like a project is not just something like a program to add 1+1. A project is Instagram.com, like Instagram, that is a whole project itself. So it's like you can't, why are you creating multiple projects in the same virtual environment? You should just have one project for an environment most times, but you can also create that. So my command line says virtual env is not recognized. That is because you have not installed virtual env yet. So note this, virtual env, there is no space in between. So it's just virtual env. So I'm going to show you the folder now. So we have Django. Okay. So this is it. So this is it. This is the folder. So notice this is my desktop to Django as it's shown on my terminal. So desktop to Django. So I'm in that folder. So if you notice, it's created a virtual environment for me. It puts the whole packages installed in this environment. Suppose it's inside this Zuri env virtual environment created. So Zuri env is the name of the virtual environment. So if I come here, packages. So I don't have any packages. So this is just like the whole thing that comes with it. So this is my virtual environment. It has been created. But note, we don't have, okay, so it has been created yet, but we have not yet activated the virtual environment. So note, we just created the virtual environment. It is not yet activated. So we are going to activate it now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open my VS Code on that project itself. Right now, it's not on the project. So I'm just going to open folder, go to my desktop, go to Zuri Django, go to Zuri env. Okay, Zuri Django is fine here. So Zuri Django, select folder. So it will close all this and open a new folder for me. So while it does that, let me see the questions now. So it says, by globally, what do you mean? Okay, so what do I mean when I say globally? When I say globally, that means it can be accessed by any project on your system. So I could have a Django project in my pictures folder, and I'll be able to access the Django CLI tool, like the Django admin, start project command, all those things. So it can be accessed anywhere from your computer. So that is what it means to. So is the terminal the only way of creating folders? Oh no, it's like you can create, you can do this. You can do this. You can just do this. New folder. Then you create. I just use the terminal because I didn't want to go through that stress. Oh yes, I trust myself. Yeah, that was the command. The error. Okay, so now I have this folder opened in my command prompt. in my VS Code. I think it's implemented. So now what I'm trying to do, so you can see the Zuri and virtual environment here. So I'm trying to activate the virtual environment. Remember, we only have it installed or created on that folder. We have not yet activated it. You see the difference here when you activate your virtual environment. So to activate your environment, you just go to Zuri. So the name of the virtual environment, which is Zuri M, then forward, is it forward slash or backward slash? I think it's backward slash. So it depends on your OS anyways. So for Windows, you do backward slash. It could be on Linux or Mac OS, it could be forward slash. So it depends on your OS. So you can just try both. So 0n slash. So look at the folders. So you see this activates here. So that's create slash activate. So that is now I've activated my virtual environment. So you can see the difference. It's showing me that I am already on my virtual environment. So now I can, so now remember when I ran keep freeze, it showed me all my dependencies, all my packages have been installed already. So I think I can just quickly do that to show you again. Okay, yes, I can do that to show you. So keep freeze. So now on my computer globally, I have all this. What is it saying? Oh, sorry, I didn't spell it fit very well. So on my computer, I have all these packages installed. But this virtual environment, if I do keep freeze, wow, sorry, I keep spelling it wrong. Okay, so when I do this, you would see all the dependencies. So you see all the dependencies now. So the question says, if Django is installed globally, do I still need to install virtual env? If Django is installed globally, yes. Not like you need to. If you are working on a project, you should create a virtual environment. If you are working on any part, so virtual environments are not just they're not just specific to Django. No, virtual environments they are specific to Python projects, not just Django. So put that at the back of your mind, please. So whether you're working on a Flask project, by the way, Flask is also another backend framework for Python. So if you're working on a Flask project, you're working on ML, AI, anything that has to do with Python, you should have virtual environment. As long as it's Python and you'll be installing packages, please always create the virtual environments. So let's go back. Okay, so now, if you can you see, I ran the same pip freeze command and there was nothing here because inside that environment, I have no package installed. Now, if you have a project, if you created a project without a virtual environment, without creating the virtual environments first. So let's say I have a project and I did not create a virtual environment for that project. And I eventually now create the virtual environment. When I try to run my server, I will get an error that says I cannot run server, something around that line. Then to tell me, are you sure you have Django installed? Now that is because at that point in time when you created the virtual environment, you did not install any other package. You're just trying to run Django. So you must always install all your packages again after creating a virtual environment. That is if you did not create it. If you are already creating, if you are creating it in a project you created before, like without creating the virtual environment. Okay. So I do not know if you can hear me. I think Zoom is crashing. So if you can hear me, I don't know.
Please, everyone just hold on for a minute. He was having issues with his Zoom, so we'll try to reconnect back now.
I'm sorry about that. For some reasons, my Zoom crashed, logged me out, so I was forced to leave call. So I'll be sharing my screen again. Totally sorry, and thank you for the patience. So I believe you can all see my screen. Please, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen, please? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Zoom logged me out for some reasons. Totally sorry. So, uh, so I was explaining how you would, if you have the project already and you did not install, you did not create it with the virtual environment, how if you've created with the virtual environment, you need to install your dependencies and your packages again. So yes, put that at the back of your mind, please. Now, um, I'm going to install my packages. So the first package I'll install first is Django. So to install Django, you use the command to install Django. So some is the install Django, for others Python and Pip install Django. So whatever the command that work for you, so I'm going to install.
I don't think we
So let's wait for Django to get installed. It's also going to install some packages along Django. Okay, so your terminal is not showing you the many dependencies you have. Like, it's not showing you, it's only showing you a few dependencies, like you put it, because I have lots of dependencies installed before. So it's not because of Django. It's not because I installed Django. That's why I have the dependencies, those packages. So all these packages have been installed before. They are just some of the normal Python packages I use. How do I create the virtual environment after opening the folder? Okay, so you use the command here. Okay, so you use the command, your name. So this is the name of your virtual environment. So this is if you're okay now. I believe I said this, but for those who probably were not on the call then, this is virtual environment, virtual env, virtual env, virtual env. This is the virtual environment. We have so many types of virtual environment. We have PipEnv, we have virtual env, we have VEnv, we have PyEnv, we have lots of them. Now, this one in particular is virtual env. Now, to activate virtual env, now each of the virtual env has like their own way of they all have their own way of activating. So they all have their own activation mode and activation command. So this is just for virtual env. So use Zuri env, like the name of a virtual env, for /scripts /activate. So this scripts /activate is a folder. It's a file actually. So the script is a folder that will be created when you create your virtual env. So when you create your virtual, that's why I had to open VS Code again alongside the project so we can see what's happening. So when I create the virtual environment, um, the name is it's always a bit like I'm having to say virtual environment. So when I create the virtual environment using virtual env, it creates a folder with the name of that virtual environment. So the name of our virtual environment is Zuri N. Now, inside that virtual environment, we have folders. So we have the live lib folder, we have the script folder. So inside the script folder, there's an activate file. Now, this activate file is what activates our virtual environment. So we do that by going to our terminal. So let me close this terminal so it's easy for you to see. So we do that by coming here and clicking the name of our virtual environment, script, and activate. So put that in mind. Now I have my virtual environments activated. I installed Django for this virtual environment. So now if you come here, if you check my packages, you'll see that I have all these packages installed. Django, P, ArcGIS, whatever. So all these are just the packages that are downloaded alongside Django. So if you come here and click on Pip, please again, we would see all our packages. So this question says, okay, so I believe I've gone over the activation of virtual environment just now. So you can see all the packages installed now in our virtual environment. ArcGIS, Django, SQL, and data. So all these are used by Django. So now we want to create our Django project. So to create our Django project, we use the Django admin command. So Django admin project, name of our project. So let's call it Django project. So this will start a new Django project also. As you can see, it has already created the project. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to navigate to this directory. So please remember, you have to navigate to this directory. So cd Django purge. Then now I am inside this directory. So now I am inside here on my terminal. I am inside this directory. So you can see we have two folders. We have the Django project folder that takes the name of our Django project, and we have the manage.py file. Sorry, we have a project and we have a file in that direction, this folder directory here. So this is always created when you create a new Django project. Now we have an init.py file. So this init.py file tells our computer or tells Django that, hey, this is the Python file. So this is not just specific to Django alone. This is a normal Python file. It just signifies that this is hey, this is the Python file. There's really nothing inside the file, just telling us that this is the Python project set rather. So this is the Python folder. So now we have ASCII.py. Now this ASCII.py it allows us to work with asynchronous modules in Python. So you won't be needing this now, but maybe when you are working with WebSockets or real-time applications with Django, maybe Django, what's it called? Maybe Django channels or something. So it's a package. That is when you will use the asd.py. So right now you're not using it. So settings.py, this holds all of our configuration for our Django project. So we have some configurations already. We have all these configurations. So as we go over Django, we'll be talking about what each of them does. So we won't cover them in this class. So as you go, you'll get to understand what each of these configurations does. So URL, so this is the root URL for our application. So this holds our application, our project URL. So this is the root URL for our project. Sorry, I have problem pronouncing R, so please bear with me. So this is the root URL for our project. Then we have this. So when we want to deploy our Django application somewhere to a server somewhere, this is what we use. So this is just a basic overview of the file that comes with Django. So we won't be doing much coding in this class. So what we'll be doing now is to run a server. What we'll be doing now is to run a server. So to run our server, we would run this command Python. So manage py run server. So anytime you are running this command, please make sure you are running the manage.py, this run server command, the same directory with the manage.py. So anytime you run Python manage.py run server, in that directory, in this Django directory, make sure there's manage.py inside, because since you are creating your Django project, Django will create another folder with the name of that Django project. So it's always easy to make that mistake that you are inside your Django root directory. Now, okay, now this is okay. They are different. I thought it was like I made the same name for my folder and my Django project. So let me just hit the server and show that to you. So if you notice, we are in this directory here. There's another directory with that same name. Django will create it for you. So please don't make that mistake and say you are in this directory and you are running this command. You will get an error because there's no manage.py in this directory. So you always have to go to the directory where there's manage.py to run that command. So let's do that. So we'll come back to this error message that shows. So let's just go back to our browser. The browser is already showing up for. So I'm just trying to push it to this window here. So let's just start it again. The animation. Okay. Running the zone and making my system like it. Okay, so now we've been able to successfully run our server. So now we've been able to run our server successfully. Congratulations. Yeah. So what else? Now let's go back this. So we talked about earlier, we talked about models. Yeah, talked about database models, not extensively, but we talked about the architecture and talked about models. Now, models are a way to specify or state the entities you have in your project, like the database entities. Or yeah, so I have a user model that holds a user with each field, age, address, height, race, and all those things. Now, what Django does is Django needs a table, a database table to store those things. So we are getting this warning or this slight error message that says that we have not applied any migration to our app. So we need to apply migrations to our application to make sure our app is running well. Yeah, I think there is a question. Sorry, the question keeps coming up, so I have to always break to. Okay. So yes, we need to apply these migrations. So to apply the migration, UI migrate. So if we do all this for us, so now we have successfully migrated to our, run this command again. You will not see this error. So the error has disappeared. Now, one last thing we need to talk about, I think, is creating an application in a Django project. So creating an application in a Django project. What is an app? So an app is just a folder that is created in a Django project that does a functionality, that carries out a functionality. So let's take, for example, now an e-commerce website. So an e-commerce website, the whole website itself is the project. The whole website itself is the project. Now, in that project, you can have a store where our goods are displayed. So in that store, we can add an item to carts, we can save an item, view items, video items, things like that. So if we were to build something like that, a store will be an application in our Django project. Store will be an application in our Django project. We can also have an API in that project whereby other people that are trying to access, so other developers that are trying to build something similar, that they need to call an API that accesses our store, our e-commerce website, they can do so. We can also build an app called API. We can also have an app where our goods, we can like goods, something like that. So an app is just a folder that carries out a certain functionality in Django. So we break our Django project into applications. So in a Django project, we can have multiple apps. We can have multiple apps. It's just a way to isolate functionalities in your Django project. So to do that, so let's just keep our server running. So I'm just going to open a new tab. So right so to create an app or an app rather, you use Python manage.py. So this manage.py is just a utility command. So it's just a utility file to carry out Django command. So to run Django command, most times you find yourself using manage.py to this file here. So it just helps us run our commands. So Python manage.py starts what should we call our app? New app or something. I saw that name. Uh, uh, and open. Oh, yes. But I am not in that project directory where there's managed OPY. It's so most times when you activate your virtual environment, yeah, I think uh, sorry about that. I think for some reasons you keep getting blocked out. So I believe you can see my screen now. Very sorry about that. So yeah, I was about creating. Okay, so I just created an app. I haven't created the app yet. So I was about explaining something. Sorry, I said anytime you activate your virtual environment, most times you get navigated back to the folder where you created the virtual environment. So here we created our virtual environment on this folder to Django. So the same thing happens when I tried. So that's why I got this error when I tried to start up because I forgot. So we got navigated back to the Django. So I had to CD back into the Django project. I had to navigate back to the Django project. So you always have to do that when you. So that's why most times you create your virtual environment in that like the same folder with your Django project. So I have my Django project. Yeah, I already CD into the project. Now I create it. So something like here, I just create my virtual environment. So let me just create the app. Perfect. So as you can see here, the app is created already. So we have our application ready. So we have these files created alongside our application. So before we can do anything um, to work with our application, to do anything inside our application, we need to install the app. So the same thing you do with your phone, where you download an app, you have to install the bots. It's not like that. So to install an app in Django is just to come to that setting.py file I created, or that came along with Django. I didn't create it. So you come here, just put the name of our application. So you see an installed apps array. So just come here, put in the name of our application. So you already get an error that says empty module name. Yeah, because our server is still running. So just put in the name of our app, new app. Save. Oh, I have a save one already. Okay, so now we've installed our app, but really nothing happens, nothing magical happens anytime we install our app. It's just same thing. What we need to do is, so when we create an app, especially if it's an app where we can always navigate to, we should create a URL or py file. This does not come with the application. So you always have to manually create the app. So the app is like this, then you create your app and your what's it called? Your URL file. So URL py. They have a URL file here. So when you are going over the URLs class, you understand why we created the app. So it's just for us to know this now. We always have to create an app, especially if you are navigating to that application. We always have to create the URLs for when we are navigating to that application. So last thing we have to do here is just to show you the content administration, the administrative panel. So remember when we were going over that slide, we said Django affords us or offers us this content administration. So we don't have to create our own admin panel or admin site. So Django creates this admin panel for us to help us manage our projects. So I will show you the admin panel now. So my server is running. So I come to my browser. Let's copy this. So this is our Django. So I copy this and I /admin. So it redirects us to this Django administration for our project. Now I have to log in, but we don't have a username, we don't have a password. So how are we going to log into our application? Now, remember we had to run migration again. I had to run Python manager. So let me just explain what migrations are or what that command. So we ran this command Python manage .py migrate. So the command migrate. This was the command we ran. Now, this command is responsible for applying and unapplying migrations. So migrations are Django's way, or like Django's way of propagating changes that we make to our models. So let's say we create a model here. So yeah, the model we've been talking about, we already have a file for it. So let's say we create a model here. I'm probably going to create a model now, but we create a model here. We want to tell Django, hey, I've created a model and I need you to add this model in our database. Specify it in our database. Tell Django and tell anybody that is using this project and tell the person I have this project already. So you run the Python, we run our migrations. So there's a migrations command to make migrations. Then after that, you run this migrate command. So this enforces the change we make in our model. I'll explain it to when we create the model. So I think that would be like the last thing we will do, creating our models and adding it to our admin. So that's the last thing we do for this today. So we are trying to log into our admin panel. We don't have a username, we don't have a password. So what we'll do is we need to create something called a super user or an admin for our site. So we need to create an admin for our site. So we use a utility command to a Python command to create this a super user or an admin. So Python manage.py create super user. So this is the command. So what it does is it will give us a prompt and say, oh, hey, okay, enter a username, enter a password. So if you leave it blank, it will take in the username of your computer. So you're not going to leave it blank because for my admin, I like probably leaving it like this. I don't know. Let's just leave it blank. Password. We have to specify a password. So you have to specify a password. So sometimes if you, okay, so let me just specify a password that won't match. So password and password again, yeah. So I click on R to tell me your password didn't match. So you should do that again. Sometimes you might give a password that is very similar to your email address. I didn't specify an email address here in case you're wondering. I left it blank. But the password, because the password is somewhat secret, they can't just allow anybody to see it. So I'm actually typing something on my password, but the email I actually left it now. So the password, we could do something like, if you give it something similar to your email address, it will still flag you and tell you that it is very similar to your email address. You should change it. So so you can see superuser created successfully. I come back here, I reload my page, give it my username, then I'll give it the password I created. And voila, we are in our admin panel. So here we can see whatever happens in our application. So we have so many database tables to see here. Now we have two models here. So we have users model and we have groups. So this comes with Django automatically. So if you want to if you are working on on an application or a project that has to do with authentication, what you will use most times is the Django user model, this user model here. So you probably learn how to do that with that, but right now it has already created a user or an admin with the username of my name, and that's the process. So this system likes an admin. So we've successfully gone to our admin site. So the last thing, like I said, is we'll be creating a model, just a simple model, basically, just to get an idea of what models and admin, how they work hand in hand together. Yeah. So just keep bringing your questions, we'll go over there and switch, because I'm already ramping up, so we'll go over them after I finish. So to create our models, I believe everyone listening to this or tuned into this video right now has an idea of classes in Python. This is because you need those knowledge, not in-depth knowledge of them, of course, or you need those knowledge. So a model is a class in Python. So a model is also a table in a database. So I have a database, and in my database table, my database table is called users. I come here and I want to create that table in probably SQL or something. I come here and I click class users. That's users. But we've not created anything yet, but I want to mention something now. So Django comes equipped with a light database for us to use. It's called SQLite 3. So this is it here, SQLite 3. So this allows us to work with databases just in development. So if you are building a production level application, please do not use SQLite 3 as your database. Either use Postgres, MySQL, or any SQL related database. Or you can also use MongoDB, which is no SQL database. But like we mentioned earlier, talking about ORM, Django works best with a relational database. So we have relational databases, and MySQL or MySQL or Postgres, they are all relational databases, and they work perfectly well with Django. Django SQLite is also a Django, and it's also an SQL DB, but it's a very lightweight database that Django comes equipped with. So please do not work with this. In fact, if you go to your settings for PY, you should see the database configuration there. So see the engine name. It's not secured at all. There's no security. So most times when you are creating a database with MySQL or Postgres, you are going to be putting in a new configuration. So engine name, password, and all these things. So yeah. So let's just quickly create this today. So, class. Now this models is a library in from that library of that class. So our schools is a subclass or a child class rather. Then the model is fields. So field name. So I don't know. I can't. I think it's on the curriculum. But we'll be talking about fraud in Django. So we'll go into models in depth. So for now, I just want to show you how migrations are being applied. So don't really bother yourself about learning all these things now. So we'll just be going over them later. So every school has a name, every school has an address. And name, address, hotels. Now let's just leave it like this. So let's create another model called function. So every function has a name. Let's just do this. So now I've created these models, but I need to make it show in my admin or in my database. I've not applied those migrations. They are just there. So what I need to do is I need to apply the migration. So I come here. Well, if you come to our admin, there is nothing here, just the group and the users. Nothing else is here. So we need a way for Django to propagate the changes we've made in our models. So we do that by running the command Python -py make migrations. Then sometimes you have to specify the name of your app if you have multiple apps. So let's just do this. So we have created our models. So we have created the migrations, yes, but we have not enforced it. We just created them. We have not enforced. So to enforce the migrations, we use the migrate command. So right now, this is a way for Django to know that, hey, we've created these migrations and we are applying them now. So we've applied these migrations. If you have a database that you can see, because we are not showing you how to, I'm not yet showing you how to like a visual representation of the database yet. You see that they are already created. But now we have to make them show in our admin. So we come here, so this is the model. So we come here and come to our admin.py. We import those models. So we do from dot models import country and school, I think. Yeah. So, like I said, we'll still go into this in details. I just want to show you how it looks on an admin. So if you are confused, please, you will understand. I just want to show you how it looks on an admin. So this is the last thing we are doing today. Admin.sites. Register. So you have to register the models in our admin country. So there's okay, we've not talked about decorators yet, but so this is just the easy way for you to do this. So now when we go this, so we are getting an error. It says the model country is already registered in app, new app. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens when we run our server. We get the same error. Now that's because Django did not like enforce the last change here. Like VS Code did not enforce the last change there. So I have to go myself now and restart it. So if I come here and I click on reload, so we can see that we have the models here already. So they are under the name of our application, new app. So if you have multiple apps, you will see those models here. So we can create a country. Yeah. So we can create a country. Let's just create something. Then let's create a school. Address something else. Now we are seeing this school object instead of the name of what we created. That can be fixed easily. Come here. So we do what we define what we call the string method. Just to see, we define what we call the string method. So we just return self name. So same thing here. The same thing you are going to do here. Just find, yeah, so the same thing. So we are going to, see the name and the country. So I think that is all for the live class. So that is all we'll be taking today. So just a little recap. What did we do? So we talked about Django, what Django is. Django is scalable backend applications. Django offers rich functionalities. We have the authentication that very, very important. If you are going to be Django developer, you need to know how to read that documentation. I think you can access the documentation through this Django, just click on Django docs. So this is Django documentation. So very important now. Also, we have Django's ORM that allows us to run SQL queries without actually writing them. So it allows us to query our database without actually writing raw SQL queries. We also talked about Django's architectural pattern that it follows, it extracts from the MVC architecture, has the same model as you can see, as you just saw. It has the model. We also have the views. If you check in the application that was created, have the views. It also has the templates, but you have to create the templates folder, then insert your HTML, it's static folder, insert your CSS, over that with that. So We also talked about how to run migrations, how to start your server, creating a virtual environment, different virtual environments. So this is virtual environment. I remember I said something about going to use deep end, but I don't think we have the time now. So I'm just going to go over the questions. So this question says, how was I able to achieve the PWD and email address? I am lost. Okay, so sorry about that. So you can rerun the command Python manage.py create super. You can create multiple super users for your application. So you impute this, your what's it called? You impute a username. So Jeremy. Then you impute your email address. So there's as gmail.com. That is not my email address. Just so you know. There's that gmail.com. Your password should be unique. So if I do something like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Can you see? It says password is too common. The password is entirely numeric. So Django has like this validator that validates our password. So it has to be unique, and that password practice. It has to be like, you can literally, as long as it is unique and it's not entirely numeric and it's not very easy. So when you do something like QWERTY 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all those easy passwords, Django will flag them. So you can create your super user like this and go to the terminal and to your browser rather. You go to your browser. Okay, let me log out. So you go to your browser, you log in again, you impute the username. So did I create this? Okay, no, I haven't created it yet. Bypass password, yes, you can always bypass your password. So Jeremy, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So as you can see, I've created another super user for us named Jeremy. It's email. Yeah, and Google Chrome will flag it as. So how do we add all these cookies for? Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Okay, so I think that would be another live session or probably recorded tutorial where we show how to add your project. It's about to push. So thank you all for joining. I really hope you found this class fun and exciting. We went over a lot of things, so I think after you can always go through the YouTube channel to check for this live class. So thank you all for joining and have a nice day. Have a wonderful day. Bye.